Okay, so let's reach as we normally do, reaching up. So, it says in the Tao Te Ching or the Tai Chi Classics, can't remember which, if you want to move to the right, first move to the left. It's like sinking into the spring so that you can be sprung out of it. So it's the same with everything, really. So I want to send my hands up. So first of all, I just pull them down a little bit. And then I let them bounce out of that and extend upwards. And then once they're up, to pull them down, I have to reach up a little higher and then let them spring out of that down. So really sinking into yourself and then springing out. So it's just what you would do if it was like really difficult and you had to use a lot of effort. You'd just do this naturally. So the phase doesn't start when you change direction, it starts a little bit before. And then up and out. And then just turning the hands to face down. And now what we're going to do is basically this, yeah? But with that same principle. So I sort of reach out further, and then as though I'm grabbing two handles, and I pull them in. And now it's like my hands are now on two like heavy cupboards or something, and I have to push them apart. So I sink into myself to find the strength, and then I extend out. And then I reach beyond myself and pull back in. And then I go right inside, pulling in the belly, bowing forwards a bit, and I extend out by tightening my lower back. So the lower back tenses even more to get further extension, and then I pull in. And then I really dig inside and push out. So we have these two actions, one really going inside in order to explode out, and then two really reaching beyond ourselves to bring something in. So those are the two actions of the human being. So basically breathing. And just feel that the mind that can really go inside and then expand out, and the mind that can just let go to reach beyond itself in order to bring something in. Okay, and then just keeping the hands out. So turn them up again, form loose fists and just a few turning. But that principle is just everywhere. So I turn to the corner and then to come back, first of all, I just turn a little bit more. And then just bring the hands up and down. And then we're going to just clasp the hands behind the back. So first, like swimming. So just send the hands out and then right round. And just clasp the hands, straighten the arms, pull the shoulders back, thrust the chest up, look upwards. And then rolling the head, changing direction each time we get to the top. And then just wind it down. Okay, and now let's just try a little experiment. So just look down at your left knee. Yeah, so you have an image, you collected an image of your knee. And now just bring the left hand, so separate the hands, just bring the left hand out and just place the hand on the knee. And just register what happens. So suddenly that knee is real because you've touched it. It's so much more real than when you just see an image. And what's interesting about it, it's not just real to you, it's real to the knee. You can feel how the leg, the knee, it's all relaxed a little bit simply because it's been touched. And that touch has almost given it permission to be itself, to come into its own. And then just bring the other hand round and place it on the right knee. And just register how it feels, yeah. So suddenly this whole area, this whole lower area, my knees through the thighs up to my danchen, my sacrum, it's all more relaxed. It's being relaxed by the touch. This is the importance of touch, the primacy of touch. So what we'd like to do is look at things as though we're reaching out with a hand in order to touch it. Because there's something amazing about touch. Even objects, even inanimate objects, when you touch it and pick it up and handle it, it's happy. It's happier than it was when it wasn't. And now let's just rub the hands, and we'll just rub the knees and glory in that phenomenon. So when I massage people, they start off on the massage mat, facing down, so they're on their tummy, so their back is up. So I start off, I go behind them or to the bottom and just place my hands on the soles of their feet. And so that just, you can feel them just becoming alive in a way that they weren't. And then I'll lift the feet and just move them around a bit to relax the muscles, the hamstrings especially. Then at some point I'll stand up and I'll just lift their ankles, and normally the legs are tense. So their legs are a bit rigid, they're not readily bendable. So what I do, I just stand on one leg and I just reach forward to my other foot and just place it gently on their sacrum. And suddenly there's just these waves of relaxation flood out from the sacrum. And the knees just drop and the legs become their true weight. They become heavy rather than stiff. So it's just the power of touch. And now just rubbing the knees. Again, just feel it, how the knees really like it. And so do the hands, and so do you. Okay. And then just back to prayer. And now let's try just reaching with the one hand. Reaching forward and just let the other hand slip behind. It's the same principle here as that sort of reaching. So you send the hand out and then I have to reach a little bit more before I spring back. So the hand that comes behind, just let it touch the sacrum or the Ming Men, yeah, above, just above the sacrum. So wherever you touch, energy will come there. And then reaching up. And now both hands behind and just clasping the elbows. So it's the same principle here. You're touching the spine effectively. And so it's just so much more real to you. And then let's just lean forwards. And then pulling back up. And over the left knee. And up. And then repeating those and just trying to go all the way down. And then the right knee. And up. And just feel that place on the spine where the arms are crossing. And then we'll just replace the arms with the stick. Yeah, just feel how it feels, how different it feels. So somehow the stick is sort of even more real than your own arms. It's a bit more brutal. It's more honest. When John got us into the weight training, and I asked, what is it that you want us to get from it? He says, I want you to learn honesty. He says, those weights are honest. That 10-kilo plate always weighs 10 kilos. It's not going to weigh 8 kilos just because you're feeling a bit tired. He says, with the problem with Tai Chi is that you can always fake it, whereas with the weights, you can't. So here, there's something about the reality of the stick that brings me into my own reality. And then bringing the stick up. Just make sure it's not pulling the head forward. So just dig down into your cushion through your sitting bones and push the sternum upwards, the thymus. And then the weight of the stick in your arms will just bear down the spine and strengthen your posture even more. And then just turning a little bit. Keep that feeling of the head sort of extending upwards, and that will just loosen the vertebra against each other and just enable you to turn smoothly and further than normal. And let's just try some bending to the side. Feel the two sides of your body, one side contracting, one side stretching. You're not tipping, you're bending. And to get it even stronger, just look up at the top hand. And then the stick up. So holding it at the ends, otherwise this is impossible. And then down the front. And up. And down the back. And then holding the stick in the middle and a few pulling and pushing. The first just pulling the hands apart. And then pushing the hands together. Pulling apart. And pushing together. Okay. And then the stick down. And now let's try those stretches for the shoulders. So one arm across the body and the other arm hooking under the elbow and just pulling towards yourself. And just work it. So what we mean by that is push the two arms against each other. So you're not just using the bent arm to pull the straight arm towards you. You're trying to push your bent arm out with your straight arm. So there's like a bit of a contest going on. And just relax into that. So we're not just trying to stretch the muscles. When we do stretching exercises, we're trying to strengthen them as well at this limit of their range. So I'm working the muscles that I'm trying to stretch. And this is just breathing. So as you breathe in, you tighten and push in. And then as you breathe out, you just let yourself relax and then you can pull it even further in. And then careful when you come out. And then the other side. So we've got these three areas, shoulders, jaw, and hips. And there's a certain equivalence between them. So when I'm working on my shoulders, if I'm mindful to it, then the jaw will also release a bit, and so will the hips. And that's what we want to try and get into. Remember when John used to say, if you want to have really dexterous hands, sensitive, dexterous hands, then just work your feet. It's the same principle. So I'm working the shoulder, but as much to release the hips as anything. And then out, and then the other one, and we just hook the hands over each other. And again, you're pulling one hand against the other. There's this sort of tussle going on. And then slowly release. And the other side. Sink. And now the one where we hook over. So just bring the arm up the spine, the hand. So the hands, they're each pulling the other hand. And then release. And then the other side. Ooh. releasing out. Okay, now let's try the reaching to the sides. So one hand behind and one hand out. So two hands are basically reaching in opposite directions and then pulling back. And let it become the strong twist. So just do one of those and then just let the hand down. And then the other side. And then releasing slowly out of it. And now let's rub the hands again and we'll place them on the sacrum. But have your mind on the sacrum in preparation. And then just bring the hands round and ooh, and then just feel how the touch just allows that part of your body to just relax into itself. It's like it becomes more solid, more real. It's a problem nowadays. We don't really touch. You think like 100 years ago, most people when they worked, they'd have been working with their bodies. Would have been physical work. So in a sense, if you're doing physical work, you're touching all the time, touching the world is touching you. Whereas when you're stuck in an office or at a computer, there's nothing. It's all nervous energy rather than physical energy. So we just want to feel, that when we have that contact, we just relax out of the nerves and into the body. And now let's just try a little bit of breathing for the dantian. So pulling the dantian in and then letting it relax out. And just to make it a bit more intense, you can breathe in through the nose at the same time that you pull the belly in. And then into prayer and up and out. Turning one hand over and turning the head, twisting the arms. And bringing the hands towards each other. Until you're just tracing one figure of eight. Feel the bottom of the figure of eight getting under you. And the top will just naturally go over you. It's the bottom of the figure of eight that's we need to work on generally. And then get the bottom of the figure of eight sort of reaching behind, like my arm wants to go behind and then come out here to rejoin its figure of eight. So the bottom of the figure of eight contains me, and the top of the figure of eight contains the other person. And then just let it reduce in size until it's contained in the chest cavity. And then let the bottom of each figure of eight just scoop into its armpit. So working on the shoulders again. And then let it work its way down. into the cave of the dungeon, the cavern. And now the bottom of the figure eight is scooping into your groin, hollowing out the inguinal folds. And then let it come back up again. And just fills out the heart. So the heart is like a room, like a ballroom, a large room. The bottom down chair is like a cavern, a dark cavern. And then if we let it work its way up, the throat to the head, and the head space, it's just like a house without a roof. So it's got certain containment, which is the skull, but it's open above. And the light is very much natural daylight. So it's cool. Rather, the light of the heart is warm. And now the bottom of the base is scooping into these jaw points. Or you can even think of it as just reaching, looping around your neck. And then just bring the hands into prayer opposite that point between your eyebrows. So you're touching your head. So you're splitting the gaze. Left eye can only see to the left. And then let the hands separate and just drift apart until they are just within your peripheral vision. And then just move them a little bit up and down. And then just tracing the rim of your peripheral vision. And then back. Just keep the eyes fixed on a point. Again, but now we're going to pluck that thread from the top of the head. And then just bringing the hands in. And then down. And now just take one hand. We're just going to make like loose fists and one hand behind on the Ming Men. So not the fist, but the wrist. So the fist is actually in the other side of the body. So my left fist is in the right side of my body, and my right fist is in the left side of the body. And it's the two wrists that are in line with the center. And just feel it. Again, we're touching the body. So it just makes everything just more real. Oh. Oh. And then just bring the hands out and around, just swapping the hands around, but making a circle out of it, like a yin yang symbol circle. So a circle containing an S. And then just, which of your hands is up the front? If it's your left, then just gaze down at your left knee, and feel it. And then just open the left hand and just place it gently upon that left knee. And again, just feel how the leg just feels that much more full and real. It's no longer just an image that I have in my head. It's like we need touch. We need the permission of touch to actually be, to be in our own body. And then look down at the right knee and just bring out the right hand and just placing it. Ooh. Yeah, so that it just makes everything happier, basically, touch. Yeah, you're more willing to smile. Okay, now let's just stretch the legs, but just one at a time. So just, gently. So lift up one of the legs and just stretch it out. And again, just use your hand touching the thigh, the calf, and the foot if you can reach. And then the other side. So bring that one up. I'm always amazed how many people do not like touch. And then into the butterfly. I've got a friend here who's heavily into AI. So he's an architect, so he uses it at work and he makes apps and things like that. And he told me that, all these little clips, these shorts you see on Instagram and YouTube, he says they're all AI generated now. So basically, you just can't believe anything. And that's what's nice about touch. You can believe it. So when you put your hand on something, you don't have that anxiety that you're being lied to, which is just such a prevalent anxiety nowadays. And then let's kneel. And then down into the fetus, so reaching up. And just separating the feet a little bit, sitting down between them. And then if you can pluck up the courage, just going back. And then up. Lie back. Pulling the knees up and apart. Just enough to get the sacrum rolling off the mat, and then you just slowly let the sacrum relax back down. And then just cycling a little bit, just to loosen the hips. And they say it's important to exercise the legs without them bearing your weight, as well as exercising them with your weight. So swimming or this sort of thing. And then rolling into the squat. So just put the hands on the floor, just again, just touch, feeling
So we just want to get really used to touching things and registering how it feels. And then we'd like that same sort of awareness and sensitivity in the feet. Because, of course, the feet, if you're standing or walking, are touching the ground all the time. So we insulate ourselves from that touch with shoes. So just spending as much of your time as possible barefoot. There's a walk along the seafront, my closest beach to here. So this is Tel Aviv. I'm in Tel Aviv at the moment. And there's like a promenade and just full of joggers this time in the morning. And a lot of them now are jogging barefoot. And it just looks amazing. You see they've got no choice but to be careful and put their foot down gently. You know, when you see people running with these spongy trainers, they just look ignorant. There's a real skill to running. People don't realize they should really take a few lessons before they go out. The whole energy becomes different when they're barefoot. The mind is more awake and more spirited. Okay, let's start with the bouncing. So make sure the feet are right, big toes angled in a little, but little toes angled out. And then let's just try this one. And so what this does is separate the two sides of the body, sort of pulls them away from each other. So I tend to fall into the leg that the hand's dropping down into and turn towards that side as well. So this is walking. This is how the body wants to work. And then let's just go back to just doing them both together, but with that same feeling that they're actually separate. So it's never quite regimented like this. They're always a little bit out of phase. So this sense that you're sort of weaving from leg to leg a little bit. Wherever you have symmetry, you know, in a sense, there's more beauty, but there's less life. You can see how, you know, if I did this rigidly, then each half of my body is the same as the other. It's just a mirror image. But then if I do this, it's still symmetrical. It's just now it's just 90 degrees out of phase or whatever. So it's still got that sort of rigid, you know, walking in a march. So we just have to keep everything soft and fluid if we can. And then just extend it out a bit. And just bring the mind to the outside edges. I'm really sinking into the outside edge, really trying to get it to dig down. So just think of the outside edge running all the way from the inside of the heel, this curve, this C shape, and then into the big toe. So it's just a little bit more than half a circle. And this feeling, like you're throwing a ball from hand to hand. So it's my weight is coming into the foot and then being thrown out along this curve, the curve of the outside edge. And just step a little bit further. And then just let it wind down till you're just standing. And then just placing the hands deliberately on the sacrum, sacroiliacs, hips. And again, just feel how the touch just settles everything, lets it become solid and real. And then just let the hands slide down your buttocks, down the backs of your legs. Bend the legs until the hands reach the knees. And then without straightening the legs too much, just bring the arms up in front. So the tree, just imagine that the ground comes up to here. So your two legs are these two big roots in the ground. And up from this shoulder girdle in the arms, there's just this large canopy of branches and leaves collecting sunlight. And then into the animal. So this is extensive, it's sort of reaching out. Now the animal pulls in, it's trying to hide all the time, feeling the Dan Chan. So it basically comes into holding the golden urn or a version of it. So as I come off the heels, it's like my elbows get pulled down towards my Dan Chan and my fingers really extend and straighten. So now I'm extending probes, sensitive probes out into the world to see if it's safe, basically. And then coming into the heel, so just letting the heel down gingerly, and then very much around the outside edge. This is what we want to work on today, is these outside edges, try and make them real rather than just something that we see in our mind. So don't worry about bringing the heels up, just trace this figure of eight through the outside edge, through to the big toe, and then across to the other. Really sinking into that outside edge. So that outside edge really penetrates the ground. And now, same thing, but now thinking of the figure of eight in the hips here rather than in the feet. So it's looping around this hip and then looping around this hip. So I'm very much with the movement of the weight. And then we just want those two to come together. So I'm going around the hip, but the hip feels like it's just digging into that outside edge. So it's almost like my leg disappears. You know, like John's penguin Tai Chi. You've just got a foot here. That's the feeling. And for that, my hip really has to sort of open up in order to embrace the foot. So here it's like my hip is reaching down. The feeling is like we're just trying to crush out all of that space that we keep between us, you know, between subject and object. You know, we don't realize it, but when we look at something, we push it away from us. We create space, and that we think gives us time and an advantage. So here I'm just, you know, so I'm hungry for everything that I'm seeing. I want to consume everything. This sense here that my hip just wants to swallow the foot and the ground that it's upon. So it's just a very different way of being in the world. It's just really passionate rather than objective. And then just back into riding horse, but first just with the hands on the hips. And we just want to work in such a way that when I do this, when I put my hands on my hips, it doesn't feel that much different. I just want to work physically. And then just let the hands slide down all the way to the knees, and then just bring the arms up. And then just coming off the heels. And again, this feels different from the tree now, but not that much different. It's the problem with images, with the imagination. There's a sense in which it separates you from the real. We want it to make everything more real, not less. So it's not a refuge, the imagination. We just use it gently to just bring things alive, to invest things with spirit. And then heel down, but the other foot first. So, ooh, I just feel, ooh, I'm drained into the ground. I want that drain to, it's taking away one sort of energy, but it's filling me with another. So with this sense of the real, it's like a hunger. And just keep it going, but just bring it into bow and arrow. So the same thing. So just really feeling the outside edge and sinking into it. And I expect the back foot's the difficult one, yeah? So just be careful with the back leg. It's easy to hurt the knee. So again, just get it's the hip. I'm going down from the hip. My hip is trying to dip right down into that outside edge. And then this hip is trying to dip down here. Just like the sumo guys. I mean, effectively, this is what they're doing with their legs all day, or, whilst they're training. The leg disappears and they get, a real contact with the ground from the belly. And then other foot forwards. So make sure you have the back toes out. Otherwise, you will hurt the knee when you go down into it. But the feast is forwards. It's like you're gobbling your way along this track. up. Okay. And now just make sure the feet are right. The big toes in a little, little toes out. And now just this feeling that you're sort of throwing your weight from foot to foot. So imagine your feet are like these two curbs like this, yeah? And you're receiving your weight, which you can think of as like a ball. Like this ball is flying through the air, you receive it, and it rolls around this surface and is thrown back. And then it's caught by this surface and thrown back. So it's effectively a figure of eight. So there's this point in the middle where the ball is just flying. It doesn't have contact with anything. So that's the point where we're 50-50. So we just want this feeling, I'm either here or I'm here. I'm not really in the middle. The middle is just open and empty. So I'm sinking here, then it's thrown, but instantly it's here. As Dr. Chi used to say, if you're moving from leg to leg all the time, then effectively you're 50-50 at least one time during the movement from one leg to another. You see, you just want to shrink that point to nothing. So that effectively you're just leaping from foot to foot rather than grinding and wanting to settle in the middle. So I'm here and then here. So this is very much Dr. Chi's form. Remember, he's just got that dancing, floating quality. So it's round here. It's like thrown up and then it sinks here, around here, and it's thrown up. So that's the quality that we want in the body all the time. Very much not stuck in the middle, either one or the other. And then we can just use the legs cooperatively to make movements and turns. So now just using both legs to produce a turn and just trying to keep the shoulders in line with the hips. So it's only my hips that are moving. My upper body is just staying with the hips. So feel this is the important leg now. In order to change direction, this leg effectively starts pulling. And then this leg is pushing, but this leg is also pushing into its opposite hand. So it's just pure cross energy, and let the front hand slip behind you. And just try and be careful not to turn the shoulders more than the hips. Just takes a bit of discipline. And so again, just working from the outside edge. So your outside edge cuts like a crevice in the ground, which you just disappear into. Feel the back leg pulling. It's pulling the ground, but really it's just trying to pull my hip into the ground. And then let it straighten to get yourself to turn even more past the front. So the leg pulls to get me to the front, and then it starts straightening and then into the lifting hands version. Let's just try and keep this now. I want my front leg to effectively try and drive me into the outside edge. If my knee collapses in, I'll come onto the inside edge. I'll lose the outside. And then I bring these toes in and just imagine scooping underneath the foot, and then use the other leg to drive yourself back and down. This spirited tussle going on all the time. It's like a fight between your two legs. My front leg is really trying to drive me back and down, but my back leg wants to push up because it's just can't go any further. Okay, now a bit with one foot forwards. Yeah, so when we did it first, we were just concentrating on the outside edge. So really feeling the weight driving down the outside edge, just digging into the ground all the way from the heel around into the big toe. So now just that opposite image, really, the sense of pulling the energy up from the ground and distributing it into the other hand. So in a sense, they're sort of opposites, but they don't work against each other. In a sense, they both need each other. Because if I do this one without a sense of the outside edge, then it will just become too much of my imagining mind. So energy really, it's just of the mind. So we've got, it's energetic, but it must also have a physicality, but a really charged up living physicality, not an inert dead physicality, not the physicality of the scientist who sees everything in terms of dead matter, some of which just happens to be animated. So it's matter that's being brought alive with touch. Like an old tool, an old antique tool, like an old hammer. Even just looking at it, you can see it's alive. It's been used well so many times. It's just invested with life. So energy, of course, energy needs a medium in order to travel. And so that medium needs to be, correct. It needs to be vital. So let the backhand really settle meatily upon your sacrum. Let's try with a bit of the other foot forwards. So just drawing the energy up the leg into the sacrum and then pushing. You just want to see how, the physicality that we've been working with today, the outside edges and that real sinking and just crushing out all of that dead space where the mind wants to hide. And the energetic, they both require spirit. It's spirit that brings them together, that combines them correctly. So if my physicality doesn't possess spirit, then it's just dead. It's just atoms and molecules. But similarly, if the energy doesn't contain spirit, it just doesn't really have a reality. It doesn't have like a meaning or an application. Like the Tai Chi, each posture has an application. It can be used. Now let's just try this one. So the alternating action of the legs is turning me and sort of throwing me from leg to leg, but there's almost a sense that you're not quite sure where your weight is. It's like there's so much springy buoyancy in this side where the heel is coming up that it almost feels like your weight is weightless. And this heel never quite digs in. And so the weight isn't there either. So it's like your weight is just hovering between the 2 feet, the action of the 2 feet. And then let it just go into the jog. And now just picking the foot up. So the way we've been doing it is effectively pulling ourselves into the foot with the front of the foot. So my heel is up, pulling the energy up or the strength until until the leg is strong enough for me to settle upon it. And then I can bring the other foot up and either just continue the energy down into a kick or a step. Yeah, let's just try that. So pulling up, just feel the flow coming up into the sacrum and then let it come down this leg. So pulling up. Okay, and now let's try the other way. So really feeling the outside edge. So that way we had like the big toe down, and then as we pulled ourselves across, we slowly lowered the heel, almost like we don't want the heel to hit the ground. So that way of working with the energy and the lightness and the delight, in a sense, you'd be better able to do it if you never had to put your heels down. So just pure animal. Yeah. So now we just want to work more physically. So I reach out, I put the heel down, and then I just really come around that outside edge. I really just sink down, almost like I'm leading with my hip. My hip digs down into the outside edge. And then there's a sense that the energy, which is obviously there because I'm moving. Yeah. So it sort of rolls off the outside edge and comes up. And it's that lifts this leg. So this is just much more physical and close and immediate. The other way of working, it's like the situation is always mediated by energy. Energy sort of passes between things. We want a real immediacy. So we're down here, and then instantly this leg comes up. The energy hasn't had to move from one foot to the other. This is now more like spirit, that a really sort of meaty physical spirit. This is the sort of spirit that we want our body, our physicality to possess, like a wild animal spirit, like a hunting animal spirit, a carnivore spirit. So round, and then as I really sink into the outside edge, this foot comes up. So real sense that I've got under the ground. I'm in the ground beneath myself. Through the outside edge is cut down under. So I have a presence in the ground underneath my body. Around. So just really feel the outside edge. Exaggerate it. Remember that film from the 90s, Rob Roy? with Liam Neeson and Tim Roth. And I think Jessica Lange plays Liam Neeson's wife. So Liam Neeson is this sort of Celtic oik, like he's Scottish, I think, in the film. This real sort of barbarian with this enormous cutlass. And Tim Roth is the elegant, aristocratic fencer. So he's very good, very light and nimble. So it's like that. This is like the Liam Neeson version. So just full of passion and revenge. And then the other one working from the front of the foot, and just that light energy just whipping out in the step or the kick. That's like the Tim Roth version. So we need both. They should both always be there. But we want them to also to be separate. So we have to work on each one individually so that we can then combine them intelligently. So something's really gone down. And then this foot, this just sort of floats up. But from underneath, almost like the energy's come up underneath the sole of my foot and pushed it up. This is just a way of working that's sort of beyond images. All the images have just been crushed out of it. It's now just totally real, but spirited real. If it was just real, then it wouldn't move. There'd be no movement, no possibility of movement, because it would just be this inert, dead matter in a lump. So there has to be enough interstitial space in the system for spirit to reside, for spirit to be present, but not for dead space. It's not dead space. All the dead space has been driven out by the pressure cooker, by the lid that I'm providing with my sinking. Okay, so let's finish. So just bringing it back to riding horse, to the tree. So just allow your hands just to give yourself permission to catch your breath, calm down, and come into the real. And then let the hands slip down the buttocks and the thighs and into riding horse proper. Feel the heels. So a sense that the heels are trying to swing out, but the toes are trying to swing in. So again, that's outside edge. And then into the animal. So feel the elbows being tugged towards your dantian. and the fingers trying to radiate outwards. And then one down and the other. And now just use it to step up. So just bring one foot up, don't put the heel down. Bring the other foot up, don't put the heel down. So the legs are bent, the heels are off the ground. And so I'm really, whoa. Yeah, so there's this. Yeah, so I've got this springiness in the knees, but also a sense of weaving from side to side all the time. It's a great exercise, just walking tiptoes. So you're just never letting your heels go down, around the house. You can't really do it outside. And then let the heel down, but so gently, there's a sense that it doesn't really quite flatten out on the ground. So if I want a sense of rootedness, I need my heels. If I want a sense of being ready to respond to stimuli, then I need to be on the front of my foot. And so there's that there, they're always shifting and playing with each other. So one heel down, if you like, and the other heel up, so the other ball of the foot ready to whip out into a kick. And then just let it wind down.